श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं गुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विजये भवरोगिणां निधे सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मणिदे वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं वयसेन कृतितां पुराणमलिनां मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीं वात्वामनुसन्ततां भगवद्गीते विद्वेषिणी नारायणपुरो व्यक्तादण्डमव्यक्तसम्भवं मण्डस्यान्तस्तु मे लोकास्तद्दीपाचमेदिनी अवतीर्णश्च कालट्यां केदारेऽन्तरितश्च चतुष्पीठप्रतिष्ठाता चेताच्चङ्करो गुरु शङ्कारूपेण मच्चित्तं भङ्गीकृतमुबोध्यः किङ्करीस्य सामाय शङ्कराचार्यमाश्रये. So we were looking at 21st shloka in the second chapter, Samkhya Yoga. So Veda Vinashanam Nityam Yena Ajamavyayam Kadam Sapurusha Partha Kam Ghatede Hantikam. So here Shankaracharya was explaining in his Bhashya that the distinction between the enlightened man, the man of knowledge, that is the Sankhyas, and the unenlightened man of rights and duties, right? So the enlightened man is of knowledge, man of knowledge, or the Sankhya's, and the unenlightened is rights and duties. So he is the duties, rights and duties, karma is for the unenlightened. And if anyone says that this is not true or this is not possible, so for someone to give up on the karma, Shankaracharya was, and that time the explanation was that if we believe that dharma, adharma, jnana, all these things are true based on the Shastras, the same Shastras, same Vedas, same Upanishads say that Atma Jnana is also true. So if you believe one thing, why not believe the other thing? So if someone says that this is all not true, they are just saying it because they are just boasting, they are just making it as a statement without any understanding of the Shastras. So again, it is also granted that when the knowledge arises, when that jnana arises, it eliminates the ajnana because it's opposite. So jnana's knowledge, when knowledge arises, it eliminates ignorance. Right? So the opposite of that jnanam cha tad. So here Shankaracharya says that jnanam cha utpadhyamanam tadviparita tadviparitam ajnanam avashyam bhadate. So when jnana arises at the time, definitely it eliminates the ignorance. And that ignorance, that ajnanam, has shown previously in the shlokas, 19th shloka, for example. It says I am the killer, right? Hanta aham, it thinks that, and I am the killed. Hata asmi. So, and both of them, those people who thinks that I am the killer, I am the one getting killed, those people who think like that, both of them do not know ubhauto na vijanitaha. So that's what we saw in the 19th shloka, right? So now here an objection can be made. So, and again here, sorry, the idea here again is that it is shown here that the Atma, the idea of Atma being an agent or the object of an action or an indirect agent is result of ignorance. So what it shows that Atma is not an agent, it is not an object of action, it is not even indirectly an agent. So if one thinks like that, that's because of ignorance. Atmanah hanana kriyaha kartrutvam karmatvam hetu kartrutvam cha ajnanakritam darshitam. So also the Atma being changeless, we looked at that previously, right? So it is changeless. The fact that such agentship and so on are caused by ignorance is a common factor of all the actions except without exception. So here again the question is whether Krishna is talking, Bhagavan is talking about only killing as an action or getting killed, or is it all the actions? Because Shankaracharya in his explanation to this shloka says that when the knowledge arises, all the karmas are dissociated. There is no karma for that person, right? So karma attachment. Karmas are attached only for the person who has this ignorance, ajnana. So the question here is whether that karma is talking about only, Krishna is talking about only those things he specifically mentions like killing and getting killed and things like that, or is it all the other karmas? But Shankaracharya here says that that agentship, that doership, those kind of things comes only with because of ignorance, and that when that is there, it attached to all the karmas. But when that is removed, when one realizes that this Atma is changeless, then there is no karma attachment, none of whatsoever. So that's why because this is because only the agent, if somebody is a doer, he can only make others do it. Okay. So but Atma is not a doer, or nor one does that. That's why. So it is not possible. The agent can only instigate someone else to who is different from himself, that can be acted upon, saying that do this or something like that. So that's why Atma is not an agent. And that's why, with the view of pointing out the absence of fitness for karmas, the rights and duties in the case of an enlightened man, Bhagavan Vasudeva says that Veda Vinashinam. Okay, he says that he who knows this one as indestructible. And he also questions how can that person Katham Sapurusha and so on. He questions saying that how can that person and things like that. So he says that to deny that rights and duties are enjoined for the enlightened person, Bhagavan says that this shloka. So again, they denying the direct and indirect agentship of an enlightened person in respect of all the action without exception. Okay, all the actions without exception, direct and indirect agentship. That's of an enlightened person. So the jnani, he does not think that he is the doer directly or indirectly. And now a question might come: what does the jnani do then? What is qualified to do? Right. So that such an enlightened person, what is qualified to do? What again he does? So the answer to that is, it's Shankaracharya says that the answer is already been given earlier, right? So it's already last time we looked at this, saying that in the third chapter, third shloka, Jnanena Sankhya Sankhyanam. So through the yoga of knowledge, through Jnana Yoga, the men of realization, the Sankhyas, they look at this. So we already looked at this previously. So similarly, Bhagavan also says that the renunciation of all the actions in the self-controlled man rests happily in the nine-gated city. So having given up all the actions mentally, he talks about in the 5th chapter, in the 13th shloka, he says sarvakarmani manasa and so on. He says that given up all the actions mentally. So one has given up all the actions mentally. So he has given up all the actions. So Bhagavan reminds again, talks about this renunciation of all the actions. Now, that shloka where it says sarva karmani manasa and so on, that means having given up all the actions mentally, the objection probably come here that it probably argued that that expression mentally or the manasa could be saying that orally and bodily actions are not to be renounced. So you could still do your karmas through your hand or leg or whatever, or bodily actions, you can still continue to do. You don't have to give up on those things. But Shankaracharya says that that's not the case because the expression all actions, sarva karmani. So it says that all the actions given up, right, mentally. So it includes anything that, like for example, doing bhajans, oral actions, or bodily actions, doing puja or anything like that. All that is given up by the person of knowledge. Then the question might come saying that if all the action is the one that's driving this, then can it be argued that all action relates only related to the mind because sarva karmani manasa? So are we saying that is it all action related to the mind alone is given up, not the bodily actions? Shankaracharya says that's not cannot be true because oral and bodily actions are always preceded by those in the mind because the actions are impossible in the absence of mental activity. If you can't think that I'm going to do this, you can't do this. So if you are saying I'm doing a puja, you have to think about this mentally, right? Then only you can procure the items you needed, whether flowers or water or milk or whatever you need. You procure those items and perform the pujas orally, bodily. You perform that rituals and karma. Right? So first one has to think. So if mentally one has given up everything, that means it's given up on both orally and bodily is given up all the actions. Now the objection again can come saying that it can be said that one has mentally renounced all the actions, all the other activities, except the mental functions which are the causes of scriptural rights and duties performed through speech and body. Say, for example, you might give up on all, renounce everything, but anything that's said in the scriptures, Shāstras, that one could continue. So one may continue. But Shankaracharya again says that that's also not true because it has been specifically expressed that in the same 13th shloka of 5th chapter, it is specifically Bhagavan clearly says that Naiva Kurumanna Karayan. So without doing or causing others to do anything at all. So because it's clearly stated there that it does not do anything, any action, naiva kurvan karyam. So without doing anything or causing others to do anything. So that means even the ones that's assigned said in the Shastras also not applicable for a person of jnana. Then this renunciation of all the actions, Bhagavan here probably talking about the man of dying. That means he does not do anything, right? So one could say that Bhagavan might be talking about a person who is dying or like that. Shankaracharya again counters that, saying that it is also not true because the specific statement, Navadware Pure Dehi Aste. So in the 13th shloka, again, 5th chapter, see, he talks about the embodied man continues to happily in the town of 9 gates and so on. So it is illogical to talk about a dead person as someone where Atma resides and he's giving up in the he's renouncing everything. So that's why it is not possible. So then the challenge here is Shankaracharya thinks like how a general person, an ordinary individual might question. So if you say that mentally I'm thinking, mentally giving up, so then maybe mentally just giving up, but not all the bodily physical action. No, that's not true because it says a sarva karmani manasa. So that means all the karmas. So then all the karmas means maybe just giving up everything else, but not the Shastra said, whatever Shastra said. And Shankaracharya says that's also not true. Everything means everything, including those said in the Shastras. So, like this, Shankaracharya, even though he answers a question, that question might raise some questions, right? The second subsequent questions. He answers that as well. So, this Bhashya, when we look at this, it is a little bit complicated because the commentator himself asking what might be asked based on the response, right? So that's why here this continues, the dialogue kind of thing continues here, where now we are saying that so in that body Atma resides, so it rests there. Now the objection might come saying that the construction of that Navadvare Pure Dehe Asti Aste. So this that sentence might come that the Atma rests by depositing, that means sannyasa, by renouncing in the body. Depositing rests by depositing in that body, and not by, he rests by renouncing. Okay, so there is a difference here. So, but Shankaracharya again says that that's not true because Atma is changeless. Everywhere it is categorically stated that Atma is changeless, it is immutable, it is changeless, and the action of resting requires a location, whereas renunciation is independent of that. So word nyasa in sannyasa, nyasa is means renunciation, okay, and not depositing. So that's why the sannyasa means it is uh, renunciation and not depositing. It is not just lying there. So that's why, according to this scripture, this Gita, Bhagavad Gita, the man of realization is eligible for renunciation alone and not karmas, not for rights and duties. So, Atma Jnanavatah Sannyase Eva Adhikaraha, not karmani. Shankaracharya here concludes this whole discussion saying that Atma Jnana, the one who has Atma Jnana, is eligible for renunciation alone and not rights and duties. So again, Shankaracharya says that we will look at this again later in the same context again about knowledge of the Atma later on. We'll look at that. But now we will look at what is the matter in hand, which is the indestructibility or immutability of the Atma, Avinashi, right? So let's look at that Atma and how that is assumed and things like that. Let's look at that. And he starts as that said in the next Shloka, Bhagavan explains that how this Atma is Avinashi, is indestructible, how it is immutable. He explains that in the next Shloka. So Shankaracharya goes to that one. So how this Atma is immutable, how it is indestructible. He explains that in this 22nd Shloka, where we look at it. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grannati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnan yannani samyati navani dehi. So, as after rejecting the worn out clothes, a man takes up a new one. Likewise, after rejecting the worn out bodies, the embodied one unites with the other new one. So that's the Vakyartha, or literal meaning of that. So if you look at Shabdartha word by word, Vasamsi means garments, Jirdani is worn out, Yatha means as, Vihaya means sheds, Navani means new, Grinnati means accepts, Naraha means a person, Aparani means others, Tata means likewise, Sharirani means bodies, Vihaya means casting off, Jirnani means worn out, Anyani means other, Sanyati means enters, Navani means new, Dehi means the embodied one. Dehi means the one who resides, rests in that body. So Yata Vihaya means as in this world, after rejecting. Vihaya is rejecting. Yada vihaya, as in this world, after rejecting, Jidani vasamsi, worn out clothes. So as we uh, worn out clothes, after, as in this world, after rejecting worn out clothes, Nara, that means a man, Grinnati, takes up Aparani Navani, right? So it takes up other new ones. Tatha, likewise, in the same very manner, Vihaya Jirnani. Okay? After rejecting the worn out, Sharirani, the bodies, Dehi, the embodied one, the Atma, which is unchanging, like the man in this example, Sanyati Anyani. So that means unites with other. What is that? Navani. So new ones. So that is the meaning. So just as the we take out clothes and put a new one, just like that Atma leaves one body and enters the new one. So that's the meaning. Now, why does that Atma suddenly remain unchanged? And that's being answered in the next shloka. So in the 23rd shloka, it is explained that the answer comes that weapons do not cut this and so on. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavagaha na chainam kledayantyapo na shoshayati marutaha. Weapons do not cut it. It here is Atma. Weapons do not cut this Atma. Fire does not burn it. Water does not moisten it. And air does not dry it. Now, again, that's the sentence meaning, the shloka meaning. Na enam means not this Atma. Chindandi means shred. Shastrani means weapon. Na enam means nor this Atma. Dahati means burns. Pavakaha is fire. Na cha means not and enam this Atma. Kledayanti means moisten. Apaha water. Na shoshayanti means dry. Not nor dry. Marutaha is wind. So again, explanation for this is shastrani na chindanti, right? So weapons do not cut. Enam, this one, the embodied one, which we are discussing, this Atma, because it is partless, it is Niravaya, it is partless, and weapons like sword and things like that do not cut it. And also, pavakaha na dahati enam. Okay, so even the fire does not burn, does not reduce it to ashes. And similarly, apaha na enam kledayanti. Water does not moisten it. And because water has the power of disintegrating a substance that has parts, right, by the process of moistening it. And that is not possible in the case of partless Atma. Similarly, air destroys the oil substance and things like that by drying up the oil. Even that Marutaha na shoshayanti. So Marutaha does not, or air does not dry this one, this Atma. As a result of which, since this is so, therefore, what we are looking at is, so as a result of, because it is not possible, and because of that, the next shloka explains that Achedyo Yamaha Madat Achedyo Yamahada Yo here Achedyoyam Adahyoyam Kled Akledyo Shoshya Echa Yevacha Nitya Sarvagata Stanu Rachaloyam Sanatanaha. it cannot, because it cannot be moistened, it can't be burnt and things like that. So it cannot be burnt, it cannot be cut, it cannot be moistened, surely cannot be dried up. It is eternal, it is omnipresent, it is stationary, unmoving, and changeless. So if you look at achedya means unbreakable, ayam is this, that is the Atma. Adaya means incombustible. Ayam means again this Atma. Akledya means cannot be dampened. Ashocya means cannot be dried up. Eva means indeed. Cha means and. Nitya means everlasting. Sarvagadaha means all pervading. Sthanuh means unalterable. Achalaha means immutable. Ayam means this. And Sanatana is primordial or everlasting, changeless. So Ayam, this Achedya. So again, this Atma cannot be cut since the other elements which are the causes of destruction of one another are not capable of destroying this Atma. Therefore, it is Nityaha, it is eternal. Being eternal, it is Sarvagataha, it is omnipresent. And being omnipresent, it is Sthanuho, it is stationary, it is fixed like a stump. It is being fixed, it is Achalaha, it is unmoving. And therefore, it is Sanatanaha, it is changeless. It is not produced from any cause as a new thing. So it is, that's why it is Sanatana. It is not produced from it is changeless, it is partless, it is Nityaha, it is eternal. And again, the description that's being brought against the verses, the previous verses from 21 to here, on the ground that in the 20th version, 20th shloka, we looked at Avinashi, Nitya, all these things we looked at in the 20th shloka, right? So eternality and immutability of the Atma has been already, we looked at that, Najayate, Namriyate, eva, in that shloka, we looked at it. So the shlokas 21 to 24 is just explaining the same thing. So it is explaining what's already said in the 20th shloka. Najayate namriyate, right? So it is never, does not born, does not get born, or does not get, it does not die. So Atma is changeless. So that changelessness has been said in this, all these things. So it does not get moistened by water, it does not get burnt by fire, air cannot dry it, swords cannot kill it, cut it, and all those kind of things. All these things that's explained in the shlokas 21 to 24 is just explaining what's already said in the 20th, but it is not repeating the same thing. It is something adding, explaining the same thing. Okay, it is the idea is same, but it is explaining the same thing because since the object, the Atma, what we are talking about is very difficult to understand. Okay, Shankaracharya says that it is Atma is very difficult. The concept of Atma is very difficult to understand. Therefore, Bhagavan Vasudeva raises the topic again and again and explains that very object in other words so that somehow the unmanifest Atma may come within the comprehension of the intellect of the transmigrating persons, that is the samsarins. The samsaris, the people with ajnana, the people having the shoka, moha, and all this influenced by all those things, somehow it may come to that comprehension of those people and bring about the cessation of this cycle and birth and deaths. So somehow this Atma Jnana may arise in those people. That's why Bhagavan repeatedly, this Atma, the concept of Atma, he explains in the shlokas 21st to 24th shloka. He repeats the same thing, same Atmas, the whatever said in the 20th shloka, Najayate Namriyateva. So that same thing is explained again and again, Avinashi, and in all these shlokas that we looked at, right? So the explanation that has come, so it is in those shlokas, it is purely is a repeat of that, right? So Veda Vinashinam Nityam Yena Ajam Avyayam, right? So it is Avinashi, it Nitya, it's Aja, Avyaya, all these things. And then explaining this, Vasamsi Jirnanu Yata Vihaya, Navani Gannani Naroparani. So again, just like clothes change from one to another, just like that, Atma goes from one body to another body. So again, explaining this, Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavagaha. So the Shastras, weapons do not cut it, but fire does not burn it, right? So water does not make it wet or moisten it, or air does not, wind cannot dry it. So again, all these things does not happen because it is nityaha, it is sarvagataha and achalaha, sanatanaha. So he explains all these things, same thing repeating again what he said in the 20th shloka, where he says na jayate na mriyate va kadachinnayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya ajo nityah shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire, right? So in the 20th shloka itself, Bhagavan explains ajo, it is ajaha, it nityah, it is shashvataha, puranaha, right? Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So even this, even though it resides in this body that destructible, the Atma is indestructible, right? So it does not undergo any changes. It is ajaha, it is nityaha, it is shashvataha. He explains all that. It is permanent, it is everlasting, it is changeless, it is birthless, it is deathless. He explains all that in the 20th shloka, but the subsequent 4 shlokas is explaining the same thing again, because as Shankaracharya here explains that Durbodhatvat Atmavastunah Punah Punah Prasangamavapadya Shabdantarena Tadeva Vastu Nirupayati Bhagavan Vasudeva Katam no Nama Samsaranam Asamsaratva Buddhi Gocharatam Apanna Sat avyaktam tattvam samsara nivrattaye syat iti. So samsara nivrattaye. So it is for the bringing that an end to that samsara, the cycle of birth and death of these people, these samsaris, and to bring that into some sort of this concept, this difficult concept, this object of Atma, bringing that into some comprehension, understanding that, to make that in the buddhi, to bring that, Bhagavan gives these examples saying that it cannot be cut, it cannot be moistened, it cannot be burnt, it cannot be dried, and these kind of things. He explains the same thing again, saying them Ajo Nityaha Avinashi, all these things. He what is said in the 20th shloka, he repeats again. And moreover, because of it is like that, moreover, Bhagavan says that in the next shloka, he says, avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanu shochitam arhasi. So this the Atma is said that this is unmanifest, inconceivable, unchangeable. Therefore, having known this Atma, you should not grieve. So that's what Bhagavan says in the 25th shloka. So Avyakta is unmanifested. Ayam is this, that is the Atma. Achintya is inconceivable. Avikarya means unchangeable. And Ayam is again this, Atma. Uchyate means is said. Tasmat is therefore. Evam means thus. Viditva means having known. Enam means this Atma. Na is not. Anishochitam means to grieve. Arhasi means befitting. So it is not good to grieve for this. Because of that, it's not good to grieve. So it is said that Atma, this Atma, this I am, this Atma is avyakta, unmanifest. Since being beyond the scope of all the organs, Atma cannot be objectified. So one cannot visualize, touch it, feel it, and things like that. It cannot objectify it. That's why it is unmanifest. And for this reason, it is achintya, inconceivable. And because anything that comes within the purview of the organs, sense organs, okay, whether you can see it, hear it, touch it, feel it, taste it, then it becomes because anything that comes within the purview of the organs becomes an object of thought, right? So then only we can feel it, we can visualize it, and we can sense it. But this Atma is inconceivable, right? So it is achintya because it is not an object of the organs. It is not something that can be recognized through the sense organs. Hence, indeed, it is avikarya. It is unchangeable. So it does not go through any vikara. So avikarya is its opposite of vikar. Vikara is change, so unchangeable. And this Atma again does not change. For example, milk becomes a curd, or curd become curdling becoming medium, etc. And so it does not change from one to another. It is changeless owing to its partlessness. And because of that, it is not seen that any non-composite, this is changeful. So it is not at all change. It does not change at all. And again, not being subject to transformation as well. That's why it is said as changeless. It is avikari. And therefore, viditva, having known this, that this Atma is like that, as described, that it does not go any changes or anything like that, you ought not to grieve thinking that I am the killer of these. These are killed by me. Okay, so you should not think like that. So that's what Bhagavan says in this 25th shloka, saying that because Atma is changeless, it moves from just like from one body to another body. You should not think that you are going to kill this person. The person, what you're talking about is body, not the Atma. Atma is Avinashi, it is Nitya. It Achintya, it's inconceivable, but it is unchangeable and changeless. So that's why don't think that you're going to kill this or you're going to be killed by this. So that's the meaning of this 25th shloka. We will look at the 26th one next time, which is Atachainam Nitya Jatam Nityam Va Manyase Mratam Tadhapi Tvam Mahabhavo Naivam Shochitam Arrasi. So we'll look at this one next time. Any questions?